A $300 bank withdrawal led me straight into my wife's secret life at a nightclub. But what I uncovered wasn't just infidelity, it was something that could have destroyed our finances, our health, and our future. And the person leading her into it? Her so-called best friend. She was the one introducing my wife to habits that would have cost us everything. What started as curiosity about some expensive nights out turned into an investigation that revealed my 25-year-old wife was living a double life I never could have imagined. And when I confronted the DJ at their favorite club, pretending to have caught something from my own wife, his response made everything crystal clear. This happened to me 10 months ago, and by the end of this story, you'll understand why I'm now secretly moving assets out of her name before she realizes what I've discovered. It started with a text message from my bank at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Victoria, my wife of 3 years, had withdrawn $300 from our joint account. Not the end of the world, we could afford it. But when I saw she was out with Anna again, my stomach turned. Let me explain about Anna. Victoria grew up in a small town about 3 hours from here. When I met her, she was this sweet, innocent girl who'd never really experienced city life. I was 10 years older, established, and I guess I was her ticket to a bigger world. Anna was supposedly from the same small town Victoria's childhood friend, who had moved to the city a few years before her. They were both 25, both had that small town energy, but something about Anna never sat right with me. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. She was polite enough, had a decent job, never caused obvious trouble, but there was something in her eyes like she was always calculating, always looking for an angle. My gut told me she was bad news, and I've learned to trust my instincts about people. About 6 months before all this went down, I made the mistake of telling Victoria exactly what I thought about her best friend. There's something off about Anna, I told her one evening after Anna had left our apartment. I don't trust her. That started our first real fight as a married couple. Victoria accused me of being jealous, of trying to control who she could be friends with, of not respecting the people who mattered to her. Anna has been in my life longer than you have, she said. If you can't accept my friends, maybe you can't accept me. But the final straw came a few weeks later when both of them showed up at our apartment drunk at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night. I could smell alcohol from the hallway, and when I opened the door, Anna was barely able to stand up straight. I lost it. I told Anna exactly what I thought of her influence on my wife and asked her to leave. Victoria was mortified, crying, accusing me of humiliating her in front of her best friend. We had a massive fight that night. She told me I was controlling, that I didn't understand her need for friendship, that I was trying to isolate her. Eventually, we reached what I thought was a reasonable compromise. Victoria could maintain her friendship with Anna, but I didn't want to see it. They could hang out wherever they wanted, but not at our place, and I didn't want to hear the details. Just don't bring that drama into our home, I told her. What I don't know won't hurt me. Looking back, that might have been the biggest mistake of our marriage. Because what I didn't know was definitely hurting me financially, and in ways I wouldn't discover until months later. The bank notifications started becoming regular. $250 here, $300 there. Always on the nights Victoria went out with Anna. When I asked about it, Victoria would say they were splitting everything: drinks, cover charges, sometimes dinner. Anna and I take turns paying, she'd explain. Sometimes she covers everything, sometimes I do. It evens out. But I started doing the math. Even if they were going to expensive places, $300 for 2 people seemed excessive for a night out. And it was happening 2 or 3 times a month. Where exactly are you guys going that costs this much? I finally asked. This new club downtown. Anna knows one of the DJs there, so we get good treatment. But drinks are expensive, and we tip well. A DJ. Anna knew a DJ. That detail would become very important later. But what really concerned me wasn't just the money, it was the pattern. Victoria would come home from these nights out completely exhausted, sometimes not getting home until 4 or 5 a.m. She'd sleep most of the next day, barely able to function. Must have been a really good night, I'd joke. Anna's crowd parties hard, she'd say. I'm getting too old for this. But she kept going back. Every few weeks, like clockwork. And every time there was another bank notification for money, I was starting to resent spending. The truth started revealing itself on a rainy Thursday afternoon when I came home to change clothes. I'd been in meetings all day, and my pants were soaked from running between buildings. Victoria's car was in the driveway, but I didn't see her when I walked in. I could hear the shower running in the bathroom. She was getting ready for work. Her laptop was open on the kitchen table, logged into Facebook. I wasn't snooping, not initially. I just glanced over as I was walking by. But what I saw made me stop and look closer. She was in the middle of a conversation with Anna, and they were talking about someone named Albert. According to their messages, Albert was a DJ at the club they'd been frequenting. But this wasn't just casual conversation about music or parties. Anna was describing in graphic detail her sexual encounters with this Albert guy. And my wife was responding with way too much interest and way too much specific knowledge. But then I read something that made my blood run cold. Anna was talking about Albert's physical attributes and how certain substances could make him appear larger. My wife responded with laughing emojis and said she might have to try that herself sometime. They weren't just talking about Anna's sex life. They were talking about substances that could enhance sexual experiences. And Victoria was expressing interest in trying them. I heard the shower shut off and quickly stepped away from the laptop. But my mind was racing. What kind of substances were they talking about? And why was my wife so interested in enhancing her sexual experiences with someone who wasn't her husband? When Victoria came out of the bathroom, I decided to address it directly. Victoria, come here. I want to ask you about something. I led her to the laptop and pointed at the conversation. What is this? You're talking about drugs that enhance sex with some DJ your friend is sleeping with? Victoria's face went white. She started stammering, trying to minimize what I'd read. It was just girl talk, she said. Anna was telling me about this guy she's seeing, and we were just joking around about it. You know how friends talk. Friends don't usually discuss the specific effects of sexual enhancement drugs, I said, and you seemed awfully interested in trying them yourself. I was just being supportive of Anna, she insisted. I would never actually do anything like that. But I didn't believe her. The conversation was too detailed, too enthusiastic, and there was something in her eyes, the same calculating look I'd seen in Anna's eyes. That night I made a decision. I needed to find out exactly what was happening during these expensive nights out. The next day, I asked Victoria if she had plans with Anna over the weekend. No, she said quickly. We haven't hung out in weeks. We've been too busy. The sudden change in their routine, right after I'd discovered their conversation about Albert the DJ, seemed suspicious. It felt like they were laying low until things cooled down. I called my friend Kevin and told him I needed to talk through a situation. Kevin's wife is a nurse, and she's seen enough relationship drama to have good perspective on these things. So, let me get this straight, Kevin said after I'd explained everything. Your wife is spending hundreds of dollars on nights out with a friend you don't trust, coming home exhausted at 5 a.m., and now you've caught them discussing sexual enhancement drugs with some DJ? That's about the size of it. And you want to know if you should investigate further, or if you're just being paranoid? Exactly. Kevin was quiet for a moment. Mike, the drug conversation alone is a red flag. Even if she's not cheating, If she's experimenting with substances at clubs, that's dangerous. You need to know what's really going on. But how do I find that out? I can't exactly follow her. What's the name of this club? I told him, and he looked thoughtful. And this DJ's name is Albert? That's what they called him in their messages. Kevin's wife, Janet, had come home while we were talking. When she heard us discussing the situation, she had an interesting perspective. You know, there are certain places where people feel comfortable discussing very personal topics with strangers, she said. Medical settings, for example. People tell doctors and nurses things they'd never tell their own families. That's when the idea hit me. What if I had a reason to have a personal conversation with this Albert guy? Something that would give me an excuse to ask intimate questions. Kevin caught on immediately. Like if you thought you'd caught something from your wife and wanted to trace it back to its source? Janet nodded. We could print out a fake medical document, something that would give you a legitimate reason to want to track down her recent partners. I couldn't believe I was even considering this, but I was out of options. The money, the lies, the drug conversations, I had to know what was really going on. That Saturday night, Kevin and I went to the club. We'd printed out a fake STD test result that would give me an excuse to have a very personal conversation with Albert about my wife. The club was exactly what I'd expected: dark, loud, expensive drinks, and a crowd that was mostly in their early 20s. Victoria and I were definitely on the older end of the demographic. We asked the bartender when Albert would be available, and she pointed to the DJ booth. After about an hour of waiting and nursing overpriced drinks, Albert came out for a break. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 26 or 27, good looking in that generic DJ way. He'd clearly had a few drinks himself. I approached him at the bar and struck up a conversation. After a few minutes, I suggested we step outside for a cigarette, even though neither of us smoke. Listen, I've got a really awkward situation, I told him once we were outside. I got some test results back from my doctor, and I'm trying to figure out where I might have picked something up. I showed him the fake medical document. The only person I can think of who might have been around recently is this woman. I showed him a picture of Victoria on my phone. I think she hangs out here sometimes with her friend Anna. Albert's expression changed immediately. He looked uncomfortable, then surprised, then almost guilty. Wait, what? You're asking me if I know her? I'm trying to trace back where this might have come from. Have you seen her around? Albert was quiet for a long moment, clearly thinking through his response carefully. Look, I don't know if you're going to believe this, Albert finally said, but I was with her maybe 2 weeks ago. What a coincidence. But I'm serious. I don't have any problems health-wise. So if you caught something, it wasn't from me. You need to look somewhere else. I stared at him. You were with her 2 weeks ago? Yeah, but I'm always careful. I use protection, always have what I need to stay safe. He paused and looked at the photo again. Is this your wife? Because there's a wedding ring in this picture. Yeah, she's my wife. Albert went quiet. I had no idea she was married. If I'd known that. What happened exactly? Look, I don't have any issues with you personally. But if she didn't mention she was married, that's on her, not me. But yeah, she and her friend Anna come here pretty regularly. Last time they were here, they were both pretty wild. More active than usual, if you know what I mean. Active how? Like they'd taken something to get them in the mood. Both of them were really energetic, really uninhibited. Anna especially, but your wife too. I figured they'd taken something to enhance the experience. I felt sick. What kind of something? The kind of stuff that makes people very affectionate and very poor at making decisions. We see it here sometimes. People take things to make the night more exciting. He looked at me with something like sympathy. I'm sorry, man. I really didn't know she was married. I went back inside and told Kevin everything Albert had told me. We sat at the bar for another hour, and I tried to process what I'd learned. My wife wasn't just cheating. She was experimenting with drugs at clubs, having unprotected sex with strangers, and putting both of our health at risk, all while spending hundreds of our dollars to do it. "What are you going to do?" Kevin asked. "I'm going to divorce her," I said. "But not yet." Kevin looked confused. "Kevin, most of our assets are in her name. The car, half the house, our savings account. If I confront her now and file for divorce, she gets half of everything, plus whatever's already in her name. So what's your plan?" "I'm going to quietly move assets out of her name, transfer money to accounts she doesn't know about, put the car title in my name only, get everything I can out of her control." "How long will that take?" "A few months if I'm careful about it. Then, when I have everything secured, she can find out about the divorce the same way I found out about her double life." I looked back toward the DJ booth where Albert was back at work. "Let her keep spending our money on her drug-fueled nights out for now. When she finds out she's getting divorced, she'll discover that the only money left in her name is what she earned herself." It's been 10 months since that night at the club, and Victoria still has no idea I know about Albert or the drugs or any of it. She still goes out with Anna occasionally, still spends money I no longer care about. But what she doesn't know is that our joint accounts are nearly empty, and everything of value is now in my name only. She's been funding her own destruction, one expensive night out at a time. The divorce papers are ready. I'm just waiting for the right moment to serve them. If you've ever discovered your partner was living a double life that put your health and your future at risk, let me know in the comments. I read every one. And if you've got a story of your own, raw, real, about betrayal behind closed doors, send it my way. My contact's in the description. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned, because the next story might just make this one look tame.